am super excited today to have Suzanne Larmer, who most people from the gym world, or at least our gym world Larmer, know you as Larmer, not Suzanne Larmer. So if you hear me reference Suzanne as Larmer today, that's because I only ever call her Larmer. So I'm going to say your name probably for the first and only time today. Suzanne Larmer is joining us today on the podcast, on the Mind Fitness Mentor podcast, where we talk with women who are achieving real results in the real world. And the reason that I really wanted to bring you on today was because in 2018, you did your first ever Ironman. And I was privileged to be a personal trainer at the time. And it's something that's always inspired me, because I think that there's a few people on this planet that are capable of really going out and living their dreams. And I remember when we had the discussion about it, which we can talk about later, you came back and you bloody did it. That's what ended up happening. And so I'm super excited to have you here. I would love to talk about, your beliefs and your attitudes and your standards, so that we can help other women out there that are really committed, or maybe they're not committed right now, about wanting to do something in the fitness arena, or they've got a goal that they don't know how to achieve, and just chunking down what worked for you, and maybe that'll help work for other people. So just give us an intro on who you are, what do you love, what are you passionate about, and what the heck made you decide to do an Ironman?
Well, I think, first of all, I wasn't the fit active person 10 years ago. And in fact, I've lived quite a sedentary life. So from going from that to then doing an Ironman was a little bit surreal. And certainly when I joined your gym about 10 years ago, if someone had said to me I was going to do an Ironman, I would have laughed in their face. It wasn't something that I'd ever aspired to at that point. However, through the gym, I had started doing events and really enjoyed them, and kind of felt a real rush of energy after. And so I think it was after the first 100K cycle, you said to me that I should be looking into endurance events. And I thought you were a little bit crazy. Okay, a lot crazy.
And now the roles have changed. Have you noticed that? I think you're a little bit crazy.
And
well, maybe
I guess
that's a good place to start, is 10 years ago, because you didn't just wake up one day and I'm doing an Ironman and it happened. Like, that was years in the making. And most people think that when they achieve goals that they're just going to go and do it tomorrow, and then they get really frustrated that they didn't achieve what they wanted to. They set themselves up to fail, and then they self-sabotage or they procrastinate. So maybe let's have a chat about what were the first few events that you did. What made you go and do those events, and what was your belief system, at the time before doing an event?
So I think I joined the gym, and I had, at that start, was my goals were around weight loss. That was kind of all I wanted from the gym, and I kind of hit my target, and I kind of realized that actually old habits were going to slink straight back in if I didn't have a goal that kind of still got me up and excited. And at the time, there was Pauline, Kerry-Ann, Andrea, and Tracy that were talking about doing a 100K cycle. And I kind of thought, oh God, if you guys are going to do it, I'll come and do it too. So the reality on our first cycle about how hard that was going to be kind of hit. But it was something that I really enjoyed.
Had you ever cycled 100K before doing the 100K that we did?
Only in the training. I think the most we got to was 75, but prior to that, probably the furthest I'd ever cycled would have been maybe 15, maybe 20, but that was a good 10 years earlier, if not longer. And it was certainly not on a road bike, and it was certainly not an event. It was just some way of keeping fit when I kind of at uni, in terms of I'd cycle to work and things. And then I'd taken 10 years off of cycling. So yeah, but no.
So you've done a little bit of cycling, had a break for 10 years, and then all of a sudden thought, I'm going to get back into it. You've hit your weight loss goal. And now, did you want more? Did you strive for more, or did you just want to stay fit and at the same weight? Like, what was your driver?
I think like there were a few things that kind of happened. So there was the cycling, and I had got into running, which I was enjoying. It was just something that I thought was fun.
Now, when we say you were enjoying, I do remember a couple of episodes where you didn't enjoy the instructions from your trainer. So it's not always fun, is it? So but this is important, because people think that you're just going to go out and you're going to run your minute K and your personal best like that. And how long did it take for you to understand or to feel that running was something that is going to be okay and you're not going to slog your guts out till the first lamppost and die?
Like, I think, like, I remember I was starting at the gym and going, as part of a challenge, that I had to add a 3K run in each day to meet some kind of criteria. And I remember the first one that my motivation was really just swearing at you. And then I kind of got to the end and was kind of surprised that I hadn't had to stop. That's not to say that I was running at pace. And that was not to say that I was breathing properly and enjoying any of it. But there was this moment at the end that I kind of got this little surprise that actually I could do it. And it took me a little while to enjoy it.
For you, though, you know, because, you know, so how did that feel? Because your initial response to something that was outside of your comfort zone was reactive. And like, I can put my hand up and say, hey, I'm the first. As soon as someone beats me out of my comfort zone, I'm like a little bit reactive, although I'd like to be more proactive, and it's something I'm working on. And I certainly know it's something that you've been working on too. So I know that we can have that conversation. But what did it feel like going from reactive to holy shit, I did it, to holy shit, I can do this?
Yeah, I think it was kind of surprise. And then there was something that was kind of like, it wasn't, I guess because I viewed it as impossible at that point. And so then I had done it, then it was like, oh, well, I wonder next time if I can do that a little faster. And what I learned was some days you're going to go faster and some days you're actually going to go slower. And they were the harder days for me. But the days where you'd kind of actually got a really neat pace, I really enjoyed. So it was that sense of accomplishment at the end.
Yeah, so what was that?
It was just that sense of accomplishment at the end. Yeah.
And what did the sense of accomplishment give you specifically?
I guess it was confidence. And because my self-view in terms of my limitations kind of had been expanded, all of a sudden I could run 3 and then 5 and then 8 and then 21 and then ... And so, and that's not to say that every one of those runs were easy or fun, and there were certainly injuries along the way, and days where you'd felt you'd had a really good time and then you actually looked at the time and it wasn't so great, and then there was some health stuff that popped up in life. But I found that running became a not meditative kind of thing, but a break from all of the outside pressures, because I was non-contactable. I was out, I was listening to music that I enjoyed. Don't know if I should share that often that my running music when I'm doing an event is actually Christmas carols.
So why Christmas carols? Because all of us have our,
I know the words. They kind of bring out happiness for me, and yeah, they just take me out of the space, especially on a try where your body might be a little bit tired by the time you get to that. Yeah.
So if someone was looking to start running, so, I don't run, and then all of a sudden I want to start running, what would you recommend to them? Like, what were the things that made things easier for you and doable and then achievable? So just when you first started running, not straight into the Ironman, because I would like to have a couple of questions about that too. But when we look at something for the first time, and this is 10 years ago, and you didn't classify yourself as a runner as such, and you had to start at the beginning. So
I suppose 6 years before an Ironman for me, running was around accountability.
Nice.
And so a huge amount of that was with you as my trainer. And it was around how, at first it was just actually doing the distance. I don't think it was even a time thing. It was just, how far did you go and how did it feel?
Yes.
I remember you asking me that a lot, and I was like, what do you mean, how did it feel? I did it, you know.
How do you think it felt?
Yeah, I can't breathe yet, come back to me in a week. But then slowly you do notice actually there's some improvement, and whether it's it just felt doable, and whether, you know, I think for me, when I finish a run and wish that it was longer, it was kind of a real kind of thing of going, wow, that's progress. So, and there was certainly days where I would have someone that would come with me. And I know that for some people, kind of when you're running with someone that you perceive as being fitter or faster, you often think, oh, I'm holding them up. But actually, sometimes those runs are the ones that actually, without having that running buddy, it wouldn't happen at all.
So accountability is quite big.
Yeah, and whether it's doing it with someone, whether it's checking in after or meeting up for coffee after.
I love that. We've always had, there's always a meeting place after a big ride or a cycle. And when I say a big ride, it doesn't have to be big. You know, 20 Ks and we can all meet for coffee or meet for breakfast. And that's certainly, you know, that dopamine reward system is helping people, you know, do something and then celebrate it. So accountability, what would be your second thing that you would recommend to people that are looking at starting potentially a running or a swimming or a triathlon, or, you know, have just started training? So accountability. So whether that be a coach or a trainer or friends, what else works really well for you?
Well, I suppose for me, what worked really well was having someone to tell me what to do. Because I'm not that good at going, well, how should I be doing this? And so things like going out and running, I might just go and do, but actually the stretching or the how far to go, with things where I still feel like I need someone to prompt that, because actually I forget how important those things are until I'm injured or aren't able to do it or whatever, or, you know, you're absolutely exhausted because you've overdone it.
I think that's a really good point for everybody here is, and we've both experienced this, and, you know, I've been fortunate enough to be your trainer for many years. So what we found was that you would go into an event, and then everyone else that had never done that event, or they've only done that event 3 or 4 times, they would come and start to give you feedback. So there's always cross messages of, you should be doing that, you could be doing that, why aren't you doing this? And people jumping into your sandpit when you had a goal, and it was like giving advice when they, 1, haven't done it themselves, or 2, they weren't actually taking it into your whole picture. You know, like your flexibility, like come and do a class with me, or come and do this, or why don't you run 10 Ks instead of running 5 Ks? Why don't you run up a hill? Or, you know, and people, and I do the same. It's like, we want people to come and do it with us, or we feel that we want to tell people what to do. But actually, unless someone's been working with you or trains you and knows your body, nobody would know that flexibility was going to play such a huge part in your, especially doing your Ironman. You know, we had to prioritize massages, and we had to prioritize the chiropractor, and we had to prioritize yoga, and all of these things which, you know, people don't actually see behind the scenes. So accountability, having an expert, I would love to know, what did you need to believe in order to think that you could do an Ironman? So yeah,
I think, and that's another thing of the things that I needed, actually all along the way, was having some people that believed. So it was kind of like, yes, you can, because there's going to be days, regardless if you're doing a 3K run to try and build your fitness because you're not a runner yet, or whatever it might be, or your comeback or whatever, like having someone that goes, yeah, you can. You know, I think about Nick, who an amazing supporter, and like the amount of events away and things that she just kind of tagged in on, and she was just like, yep, we can do it, which was, you know, huge. So
I agree. I believe having people believe in yourself, and that's, you know, the other thing I think that both you and I agree on is that who we align ourselves with is everything.
and I think when you take on a big goal, regardless of what it is, mine was an Ironman, but there were certainly people who didn't share that aspiration in that area, and certainly kind of moved out of my world at that time. And some of that was quite hard, but actually I had a choice in that in terms of whether I was going to stay focused on that goal. And so there had to be part of me that believed that this was important. That was probably the biggest belief, was the fact that I decided that I was going to do something. And that to do that, it meant sacrifice, and it meant having to prioritize that over a lot of stuff.
Can you share some of the sacrifices that you had to make personally that maybe you weren't aware of at the time? Like, you had to sacrifice, like you say, there was some friends or potentially family, regardless, or even work colleagues at that time that weren't not necessarily going to support the journey. They just didn't want a bar of it. It's just like, now you put a line in the sand, and now you're going to be that person. So, things changed.
Yeah, like they did. Like my group of friends at that stage became a little bit smaller in terms of the people that I hung around with, because actually I didn't have as much social time. And particularly when training for Ironman, I wasn't able to do the classes at the gym as much. Like, spin was in, plyo was in, yoga was in, but lots of the other classes that I'd up until that point been enjoying, I wasn't allowed to do. And admittedly, I did sneak into some, because actually I felt like hitting a bag and it was probably better than a wall. And so there were certainly times where I broke rules, and I remember even taking my watch off just in case it got recorded. But what also happened in that time was the fact that I actually started aligning with people who had done Ironman before.
Yes.
Yes. And actually
share that with us. Like, what was that experience like? Because now you've gone out of a really comfortable space, and now you've started putting feelers out to go, I'm going to try and do this, and still having people that believed in you, but now you're playing an arena that you'd had no previous experience. So what did that feel like?
I remember meeting the coach for the first time and kind of going, I've done about 4 halves and about 4 quarters and 5 half Ironman and a few Olympic distance by that stage, and kind of almost feeling like I was going for an interview as opposed to interviewing her to see whether or not that I was going to be a good match. And then kind of realizing that there was potential. So there was kind of this kind of flimmer of, you can come. And I joined a tri squad where I'd kind of gone from a situation where I was really comfortable at the gym. I knew all the classes, I knew lots of people, I was a bit of the loudmouth. I think I had started teaching by that stage. So I felt known, accepted, and challenged in that environment in a way that I felt really safe. And so then turning up into a squad of Ironman was huge for me. And I remember at the end of our first one, we all looked at our average heart rates. Mine was off the scale. And just knowing that I had no idea what that meant. And they're talking aerobic and anaerobic exercise, and there are all these new words and terms and stuff, whereas the first day I was kind of a bit blown out of the water. But then from that time, like the generosity of knowledge and experience that was shared by people who had actually done that, because they wanted you to succeed. Yes. It wasn't a competitive thing. It was we're training, we're going to meet at the pool, jump on in, and just little tips about nutrition and hydration and sleep and stuff, just around what really was important. I remember parties and things like that. You kind of, the first to leave, and you kind of having to really work out whether you could go to social events, because you've got to be up at 4:30 in the morning to go and do this training. And also
what you were valuing. So how did your values change at that time?
I think actually I was really clear on what was important. So on Saturday mornings, Sundays, I would meet up with some of the group that I was training with for long runs or cycles. And then I would often kind of skirt back to my brother's place so I could catch up with my nieces and jump on the trampoline and things like that. So it was making sure that what was important to me kind of fitted in. And then there were definitely days where I was really conflicted around what I wanted to do and what I needed to do, and felt bad that I was letting people down. And going up to Mangawai at New Year's, but packing all of my, my wind trainer and my bike and going out for runs while everyone else is still sleeping, and not drinking, or keeping to the nutrition plan, because actually it doesn't feel so great running 15k the next morning when you're you've overeaten the night before. So yeah.
What if I was to ask you, or people would love to know, what are the 3 things, I guess, about doing an Ironman that we would never know about? Like what blew you out of the water? Or you didn't expect?
I guess the one thing that I hadn't really anticipated was how amazing it is to have supporters there. Like when I think back to that event, the people that came all the way down from Auckland to be there, like they will forever have a special part in my heart, because they were there from, was it 6 in the morning or 5:30 in the morning, right till I finished at night, and it was a long day. And they were there at the finish line when I crossed through. It was just amazing. So I think that's probably my best memory from the day, is the people that came down and did it, and being able to talk Sam into running most of the run with me. I think she expected to do a marathon that day, but she did.
Good training for her. Larmer was great training.
And what are 2 other things? Her coffee as well. You'd bought her.
So what about 2 other things that people should maybe think about before they're doing a triathlon or a Ironman? Like, what other 2 things?
People, I think.
So finding your tribe is different.
Like, I think, like, actually having a person who knows exactly what you need to do, so that you've got an expert that can kind of tailor your training. I think the thing I never anticipated when I started was what that training was going to be like towards the end. And I had the unfortunate episode of falling off my bike. I think it was about 6 weeks prior, and had a huge hematoma and couldn't feel most of my right leg and under my foot on the day. And had I not had the trainers and the experts and and Michelle with her hookup,
and the specialist appointment, like all
like it would have been something that at that point that I probably wouldn't have known if I could do. And so like that was invaluable, but also like I think the thing is that the body is amazing. Like there were moments in that event that were just surreal and amazing, swimming in Lake Taupo and looking down, and there's someone with a video camera looking up at you that's deep in the water as you're swimming, and just being able to see, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of swimmers all kind of heading out at the same time, and you're part of that. And there's elite athletes that are doing exactly the same event as you.
But you are an elite athlete, like you're an Ironman. So like what is it? So for those people that don't know what an Ironman is, so give us the distances. So how far are we cycling? How far are we running? How far?
I'm glad it says it on the other side of this. It's a 3.8k swim, 180k cycle, and then a 42.2k run.
Yeah, so that's a marathon. So for people that don't know, that's a marathon. And we're looking at how many k cycling? 180, did you say?
180k, yeah.
Yeah. So
which is approximately what Taupo to Rotorua and then back again.
Yeah. So,
and
how far is the swim?
Good hills, 3.8k.
Yeah.
So
most people think that it's just an Ironman, and when I think it's just an Ironman, I'm like, man, you could like fly to LA in the same time that you're out there training. Like that's how long Listen, that's how long your body is under physical, it's under physical pain. So what would be the third thing that people probably wouldn't know about doing an Ironman?
I think it's just the fact that it's totally possible if you do the training and you've got if you set it up, it's totally doable. I'm just thinking of all these other kind of things that are kind of flooding through my head at the moment, in terms of, like, for me, that first half lap of the run was the only time in the event where I thought, I'm not going to be able to finish this. And
that's after you've done 185 Ks on a bike and you've done the swim. So the first lap of the run was the first time that you had doubt.
Yeah, totally. Like, because up until like the cycle, I loved the cycle. And because the previous event, Enduro, I'd done a flat cycle and hated the cycle. So for me, it was quite a empowering thing to enjoy the cycle. And then I kind of got off, and I think it was in the first K. So, your legs are used to cycling for all these hours. So actually walking in different shoes and things it was painful. And I kind of got to the first kind of stop where a group of friends were sitting in a marquee, and I just said, I don't think I can do this. And they were pretty blunt and said, yes, you can. And they actually they had water waiting for me when I got back, and they just said, at the top of the hill you'll see, there's the first aid station, and you'll find your feet and you'll get there. And I got to the first aid station and I didn't find my feet and I didn't enjoy it. And then I saw Julie, is it Mahir, at the top, and so she was starting to kind of woo. And so I kind of just kept walking. I wasn't running, and I just felt yuck. I felt like nauseous and horrible. And then I kind of got to the top of the hill, and there was a guy, and he was literally crawling. He'd had a gastro kind of response to his gels and stuff, and he looked worse than I did. And I remember looking at him going, oh, actually, I feel a bit better now, because at least I'm still walking. And then I kind of found my feet. And once I found my feet, I just kept going. And it was not concentrating on 42.2K run. Which actually up until the day, because I'd hurt my hip, I hadn't run more than 30K. And so there was a part of me going, can I? Well, actually 42.2K for me on this event was no harder than doing a 30K.
Right.
Because everything that hurt still hurt. Yeah. But it didn't get worse. And
so the pain tolerance just stayed and it just continued. So it was a mindset.
You stop focusing on it. Was probably the thing. Like, I think the first half lap I was focusing on, I don't feel well, and then I got to the point where someone really didn't look well, and I was like, actually, I'm being a bit precious here. And then kind of just took that deep breath and thought, fuck, I'm doing an Ironman. So it was cool. And I think that's something that I've done in all my events. It's that, cycling up the top of a hill and actually just taking that deep breath and looking around and going, wow, this is a beautiful place that we're in.
So living in the moment. So just
appreciating, there's not like, I don't, up until meeting all the people that do Ironman and Scott, I hadn't met anyone that had ever done an Ironman before. It wasn't something that, it wasn't something that everybody gets to do. And here I was, little old me, doing an Ironman. It was really cool.
Yeah. And you're the only person that I know, or that I trained, and I didn't even do all of the intense training for Ironman. I was a trainer and then and it was like, well, you need to go now and find yourself another coach that specializes in Ironman. You're like, well, no. And I was like,
I remember that conversation.
This is not my level of expertise, And
I remember that conversation in the gym, Ursh, and you said that, and I went and I was like, okay. And I got to the showers and I cried because this was scary. It was like, I don't want to. Yeah. And it was kind of that kind of thing of, well, if I want to do it, I have to. And it wasn't as bad, like, having a coach who literally tracked how my body was responding was amazing, and had all of the expertise specific to this event. And I remember her advice of, if you've got a personal trainer who knows your body, you need to keep her, because there was years of kind of knowing me in terms of events and being able to keep me focused, which she said, absolutely stay with your trainer, but I'll give you the program and I'll tell you the how, which was just phenomenal, because I had two amazing people who had that. And for me, if I'd only had my coach, I wouldn't have done it, because there were days where I was ready to pack it in.
Yeah. So what would you say to people that have this dream, as we wrap up now, but what did you need to hear maybe that you'd like to say to them?
I think it's kind of important to kind of look at, what do you have to do today to get towards this dream? Instead of trying to look at because I think I took just over 12 months in terms of training specific for it. And I remember thinking, I can't run 42.2K. Like, the actual swimming, I actually was really confident at. That wasn't an area of stretch. And cycling, I don't think I'd cycled more than 100K, but I thought only another 80K, it'll be fine. But running 42.2K to me was just so far outside of the realm of possibility. And just knowing that actually you're allowed to walk some of that was great. And just doing consistent steps towards that is important. Like knowing where you want to go, having a plan, and being prepared to make the sacrifices to actually get there. And in the times where there were other opportunities that kind of, those bright shiny things that kind of distract us at times, kind of actually stopping and really thinking about, do I really want this, or do I really want this goal? Because it's really easy to get distracted and kind of find, that you've done all these little things that might make you go yay in the moment, but actually don't get you to where you want to go.
Thank you. I really love how you've languaged that. And it's just knowing that this is so important, that you're going to have to make those big sacrifices, and then aligning with people that are going to help support that journey, having that plan and sticking to the plan. So who are you now after you've completed your Ironman? What changed for you?
I think that when things that are really tough that kind of come up in my peripheral, I'm not as hesitant as I used to be around accepting those challenges, because I know that I can kind of do things that I don't believe that I can at the start. I also need reminding constantly to go and ask the experts.
Don't we all?
Like, that's probably the one that I still need to kind of make sure I check in on, that there's often someone who actually knows exactly what you need to do to get to where you want to go, because they've done their version of that, and being able to just ask those questions, and not from a what should I do, but how did you do it? My experience of doing that has always been really positive, with people being really happy to share that. And actually kind of thinking in terms of even being asked, it's kind of a compliment. It's kind of someone recognizes something in you that they kind of aspire to.
That's right. And giving the opportunity for other people to lead in their areas of expertise. I've found the same thing. So when I'm at my next goal, and then I think, who's going to be my next mentor, my next coaches, who's got what I want right now in that specific arena, aligning with those people. And I've never been rejected yet. I feel like I'm going to, like, exactly like how you said, it feels like you're going to get interviewed. And watching the person who you were, and now the person that you have become. And I used to think that you were extremely resourceful then. I definitely think the confidence, I think that you have more determination. I think that you are extremely resourceful regardless. Like, I think it just, you're a person that says never say die. And when, you know, you're doing that last lap on your run and you've got nothing left to give, and all you're doing is laughing and you're having a joke and you're stopping and you wanted to drink coffee and it's like, hello, like, what are we doing? We're in an event right now. Like, you don't have time to have fun. And you're like, well, we have to have fun. And so I just really wanted to celebrate you, to say thank you for jumping on here tonight, but also reminding us that by living in the present moment, we get to appreciate everything that's around us. The fact that you got the opportunity to do an Ironman, not that you had to make sacrifices to do an Ironman, but you saw that in a way that opened up even more opportunity for you, you know, and you gave the opportunity for the likes of me and Sam and people at the gym to support you and to honor your journey. And, you know, by you stepping out of your comfort zone, that's going to inspire someone else that watches this today, that listens to this today, to say, hell, I can do it. And they can do it because you're an Ironman. So every time I think I'm getting tired, well, if Larmer can do an Ironman, I've got nothing to complain about. So just now we're going to quickly wrap up. What's your next event that you would love to train for? Because I just want to put it out there so that everybody now knows and it's cemented in you. Not the next one, but what's your next big one?
Oh, so it's certainly Comrades, not next year, but the year after. And then I want to do Coast to Coast before I'm 50.
So there we go. It's gone. It's gone live. Everyone's going to see this. So we're going to keep you accountable. We're going to be your biggest cheerleaders. And, you know, I'm all about going to South Africa for another holiday. So we won't be letting up on that goal. So that'll be our next one, not next year, the year after. So it's going to be downhill. So looking forward to that. So thank you so much for being on the podcast and being one of those real women that are getting real results in the real world. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thanks. See ya.
See you, Larmer.